that is hard to find the time to practice the Dharma in such busy samsaric life. And even when you are able to find little time to study, to reflect, contemplate, and meditate, unable to focus well, most time our mind is very distracted. Therefore, it's hard to have quality meditation practice. Therefore, our practice meditations does not become as effective and strong as it should be. Therefore, in order to have a meaningful and beneficial and strong practice and effective practice of meditations, we need to develop our concentrations. And to do that, we need to train our mind to do that. And once we have trained and learned how to do that, we have to try to implement as much as possible. For that very reason, that's why we have come together here to study, to learn more about how to improve our focus, concentrations. And once we have developed the meditation concentration or Shamata, so we can use it to generate the penetrating wisdom of special insight that can act as antidote towards all the delusions. And may our act of coming together, listening, discussion, reflecting, all of that become cause and conditions to achieve the Buddhahood as soon as possible and liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, and to guide them to fully enlightenment. Okay, so the union to the Do you have the Heart Sutra? I prostrate to the archetypal gem, thus did I hear one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of Vultures mountain in Rasgir, together with a great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was observed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aryavalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train and who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or donor of the lineage who wish to practice the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregate also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness form. Emptiness not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factor, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not division, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factor, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no order, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and the path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awaken to the unsurprised perfect complete enlightenment in the reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurprised mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that totally pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gade gade, paragade, parasamgade, bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commented the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced, the Bhagavan having thus spoken. The Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding the entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asura, Gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Sashibhe Chonshe Meto Tare Rale Yende Nyembade Sangye Shindo Mide Oai Yogun Namadashi Chebai Sho I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soge Sonam Changju Padu Dane Kyasa Sangye Choshegi Be Sonam Ge Dola Renje Sangye Dola Sangye Chodang Soge Sonam Changju Padu Dane Sangye Choshegi Be Sonam Dola Renje Sangye Dola Delusion is on it, temperature is Guadam de la Chat. So, in order to achieve either individual liberation or fully enlightenment, we need to overcome all the delusions, all the obscurations, and in order to overcome all the defilements or afflictive emotions, we need to overcome the very root of those afflictive emotions. That is the fundamental ignorance. And to overcome that fundamental ignorance, we need to cultivate special insight, the wisdom that penetrates, which can act as the antidotes towards that fundamental ignorance. And in order to cultivate that special insight, then we need to develop the karma abiding or meditative concentration of Shamata. And so we are in that chapter in terms of how to develop or cultivate the meditative concentration of Shamata. And in order to have in order for our practice to develop the meditative concentration in Shamata, then we need to have a favorable or conducive external and internal conditions. If we have those conducive external and internal conditions, then it becomes easy, more easier to develop the Shamata. And so last week we kind of went through where Lama Tsongkhapa explained about some of those conducive or favorable conditions. And external, we finished the external. And in terms of internal, we also, I guess maybe we finished this, the second out of those 6 ones. That is having few desires. So again, in terms of internal, external conditions, of course, we already talk about to have more quiet external conditions. It is not enough just to have external quietness. It also, we need to create internal quietness. If the inside, if it's not quiet, then again, even if it's quiet outside, because there's too much noise in your mind, then again, it becomes more difficult to develop the Shamata. So the noise in the inside, so such as a lot of desire, when you have a lot of desire, then that makes a lot of noise inside. And so therefore, again, our mind gets too distracted. And so having less desire of. And the third one is contentment, And again, contentment is being happy and satisfied with the basic, your needs, whatever our basic needs are in terms of for our practice, meditations, to develop Shamata, as long as we have the basic things, then it doesn't have to be to elaborate, even without having all the elaborations of very nice and big and lots, but as long as we are the kind of the basic, then being happy, content, and satisfied. Because if we are not content and not satisfied, then again our mind will start it kind of running after things, and then again get distracted. And also, we will be less happy. And if we are not happy, then again, it will be obstacles for our practice. Then you started to feel more miserable. And when you are trying to meditate or practice, and if you feel miserable, then of course, it's not inspiring to continue to do that. And so therefore, and again, even in our life, in general, even in our life, contentment is so important, If we have that sense of contentment, satisfactions, we can be happy. We can be quite happy wherever we are, whatever situation we are. That is one of the main cause of our happiness in our life. On the other hand, if we don't have contentment and if we are dissatisfied, then no matter where we go, no matter what we do, no matter what we have, no matter how much we have, we will always feel unhappy because of discontentment, because of dissatisfied mind. So we'll always end up becoming miserable and unhappy. And then fourth one, completely abandoning one's many activities, So therefore, again, especially when you're trying to develop Shamata, very specifically Shamata, then we need to stop doing so much of samsaric activities that can be obstacles, we have to stop doing all other activities, samsaric activities that could be distractions, and obstacle to the to have a more quiet mind and to have a so therefore to be able to develop the shamatha more easily and quickly, so not only we need to stop engaging in non-virtuous actions, we will also try to stop, what we call neutral, which are not virtues, which are not only not non-virtues, but also some of them neutral, like for example, doing some art or medicine or astrologies and all of them, they are not non-virtues and they are not by itself, but that kind of activity become distractions and obstacles. And not only that, when we are really seriously trying to develop shamatha, then also we need to have less, even the other virtuous things, even the other virtuous things, so having less, let's say having a less sadhanas, those things, because again, we are not talking about trying to develop our concentration or mindfulness in every day. But when someone is seriously taking time for months or years and focusing just on this, just on Shamata, in order to develop Shamata, when you are focusing just on that, even the virtuous practice, too many other practice become again cause of distractions in a way. Those are virtues, but in terms of that, it becomes obstacle for your mind to develop Shamata. So therefore, like His Holiness, when people are seriously meditating, taking time to develop Shamata like that, His Holiness, from what I hear for many meditators, he gives exceptions to many of those commitments. Some of monks, the practitioners, they have a lot of commitments, and so that takes a lot of time. And also because you have to think about those commitments, and reflect, your mind goes. So again, when you are trying to Shamatha, and then something that you have practiced might come, and that can be distractions. So also, for example, when I was very much interested to attend one of the Goenkas, the Vipassana meditations, and of course they have many levels of that. The first level is 10 days, and they also have in Nepal, and my brother did, and some of my niece and nephew also did, and I was all very interested to do that, but one, they don't have all the time. I think they have only certain time, and so one, timing was difficult. Second things was, when you go there, you can't take your malas, you can't do all your sadhanas. That is part of the only thing you do is just that meditations. So you are not allowed to do any other practice. And because, again, their focus is Shamatha, of course, it is just a glimpse, but a lot of people have experienced certain touchable experience within the 10 days, because you do a lot of meditations and you don't do any other thing, just focusing on that. So similarly, of course, when someone is really trying to develop Shamatha, very seriously taking that, then also we try to, if we have too many other practices, we can do those practices earlier as a preparation. But when you are actually trying to develop the Shamatha itself, then it can be an obstacle. So having less of that, so then pure ethic is another conducive conditions. And so again, the practice of moral discipline or ethical discipline is another favorable conducive condition for the Shamatha, because with the practice of the moral or ethical discipline, it helps us to stop some of the gross level of distractions. And in order to develop Shamatha, we have to stop all the distractions, gross, subtle, most subtle distractions. And while we are practicing the moral discipline, we are training our mind to be less distracted with our, our physical actions or behavior, our speech, and with our mind. And so in a way, we are training in that. And so, and also, as you see, in terms of very higher training, again, that is where the moral discipline as a foundation for the concentration, and concentration as a tools to develop wisdom. And also we can see in terms of the 6 perfections, again, the practice of moral discipline come before the which meditation or the concentrations as the foundations. So of course, in terms of discipline, whatever precepts or vows we have taken, whether it is a Prathamosha vows, such as lay vows or precepts, or the Bodhisattva vows or Tantric vows, whatever vows or precepts we have taken, trying to keep them purely, observe them without diluting, and if we have not taken any of the precept vow, at least we try to refrain from 10 non-virtuous actions and engage in 10 virtuous actions. That will be the moral discipline or ethical discipline. Even someone has not taken any vows, any kind of vow, at least on the least, the minimum level is to refrain from 10 non-virtuous actions and engage in 10 virtuous actions. So that, of course, when we have taken the vows, then some of the vows, as it says, they are negative by natural, which means like such as taking the life of others because it harms others, and yourself. And whereas a proscribed misdeed means by nature they are not a negative, but such as, for example, not drinking, in terms of lay vows, not drinking. Drinking itself is by natural, is not a negative. But because that could lead to a lot of misdeeds, so therefore there is the vows that we have taken not to drink. So if we drink, then that is breaking that vows. So that is what we call proscribed. And so of course that kind of vows, they are as well as in lay vows, as well as in the monks' vows, ordained vows. So those. And then because again, we are not perfect at the moment, we are not enlightened. That's why we are trying to develop Shamata. If we are enlightened, then we already have those qualities. So since we are not enlightened and we are still ordinary, trying our best, so therefore, sometimes due to not being mindful, we break some of those vows, precepts. Sometimes even when you're mindful, the delusion is so strong. You cannot control it. And through that, again, sometimes we break the precepts. And so, and when we do break them, and when we do notice them, and be aware that, oh, I broke in one of those precepts, immediately try to generate a strong sense of remorse, regret, and then by applying 4 antidotes, then try to purify it as soon as possible without any delay. And so that is what it is. It is restoring quickly to regret according to the Dharma. So by applying the 4 antidotes as soon as possible and trying to purify it as soon as possible. So that is that. Then a 6th one, completely abandoning one's conceptualization of the desire. So so again, most of our thoughts, because these thoughts are the obstacles for Shamata, too many thoughts. And if we check it, most of where our thoughts come from, a lot of the time our thoughts are coming out of attachment, desire. Of course, there are times when we have thoughts, such as anger and concept or conceptualization or conceptions or thoughts such as anger and jealousy and pride and so on, others' thoughts. But most time is if we kind of observe when any thoughts comes, most of the time they are coming from the attachment, the desire. Sometimes even we have like fear arising, Even the fear, if you see it, why does that fear comes? Where does that come from? Again, a lot of time it is coming from the attachments. A lot of time, even the anger is coming from the attachment. And of course, jealousies. So many different thoughts that arises, mostly they come through the desire. And if we can stop such attachment and desire, then all other thoughts that arises from that kind of desire or attachment will cease. And so therefore, and the way to overcome the desire is, as it says, meditating on the disadvantage of the desire itself, or the object of the desire, which is the experience of this life, the samsaric experience or happiness of this life. When we are attached to experience and the happiness of this life, or then that is where desire arises. So we try to meditate on shortcoming, the fault and disadvantage of the the samsaric experience, or the samsaric contaminated happiness of this life and this life itself, or the desire attachment itself. And so, for example, out of strong attachments, sometimes out of strong attachments, we take the lives of others, we lie, we steal, for example, through that, then, we can be kill ourselves, or arrested and put in a prison in this life. And then in the futures, because of such negative karma that we have created, then in the future, we could be born in one of the lower realms. So thinking of all those consequences of such a attachment, which is attached to a certain pleasure, of this life. And so, or here it says, also you can think on impermanent and subject to distractions, So all the objects, pleasant or unpleasant object, all of them, the object of our desire, our attachment, all of them, all the objects present on, they are impermanent, they decay, they don't last forever, they disintegrate, they decay, they disappear. So reflecting, contemplating, meditating on the nature of, the nature of decaying, the nature of changing, the nature of destructions. The object of our attachment. So that, again, that can help us to let go of strong attachment to such any of those objects. And also it says, it's only a matter of time that those objects will be separated from us. you know. Sometimes we leave behind all these objects, we die, you know, or sometimes the object get, you know, lost, destroyed before we die. But basically, it will be separated. It's only a matter of time. Either they leave us behind or we leave them behind. Which comes first, we don't know. Sometimes, you know, things leave before and we are leave behind, and sometimes other times we go first and we leave behind that, but definitely it's going to be separated. You know, it is going to be separated. As something that is going to be separated, why try to cling so tightly to that? Why try to hold so tightly to that out of attachments? And so through that kind of meditations, then we learn not to be overly attached, not trying to cling and hold and grasp on those objects. And if we're able to do that, you know, our mind will be much more calm. Our mind will be less distracted. So then in the Lama Tsongkhapa, Lama Adishas, in the lamp of the path of enlightenment, then it says, you know, even you try to meditate for thousands of, you know, years with great effort, you know, if the lamp of the samadhi are impaired, here the lamps of samadhi, meaning all the favorable or conducive conditions are not, if they have not gathered there. Okay, here the limbs here means all the conducive conditions, the favorable condition, external and internal condition that we just spoke about. If they have not gathered, if they are not all together, if they are not gathered, then concentration will be very difficult to, Shamata or meditative concentration will be very difficult to achieve or attain. So, so here then Lama Tsongkhapa said, you know, those of us or anyone who strongly wish from the depth of their heart, from the depth of your heart, who want to achieve the Shamata and special insight, you know, they should try to gather all the essential, important conditions, all the favorable conducive conditions before you actually engage in the actual practice. And so here, in Asangas, you know, Savaga level, or there he explained about 13, you know, 13 conducive or favorable conditions. And then from those 13, then Kamala Shila, in his stage meditation, he kind of contents into those, you know, 6 that I just mentioned, you know. So these are the, yeah. Then next come how to cultivate the Shamata in reliance on those favorable conditions or conducive conditions, you know. And so that has 2, you know, the preparation, the actual practice, you know. And then in terms of the preparations, you know, we should practice the 6 preparation practice. So that was explained at the very beginning of the Lam-Rim, you know. So with every practice, we try to apply those 6 preparations with all the practice. So those 6 preparations, I think we have gone through that, but maybe probably We have already forgot it by now, but just to remind, the first one is cleaning the place and arranging the, holy object of body, speech, and mind. So that is the first, clean. And then second is obtaining all the offerings honestly and arranging it beautifully, whatever offerings. So honestly, obtaining the offering honestly means those are obtained not through a wrong livelihood, but from right livelihood, as well as in terms of the motivations. The motivation is pure, and so that, and the third is adapting the seventh posture, sitting position of the Virajana, and on the comfortable cushions, and then going to the refuge, and then Bodhicitta, and so on, and trying to put your mind in a right state of virtues. Then fourth one is visualizing the merit field. Again, we all discussed there can be many different. And then fifth one is once we have visualized the merit field, then we engage in practice of seven-limb practice in order to the seven-limb practice, which encompasses all the purification and creating accumulation of merit. So engage in the seven-limb practice, and then engage in the mandala offerings, and then six ones. Then once we have done the seven-limb practice and mandala offering, then we make a heartfelt request to the merit field to guide us, to bless us, so that in order to our mind steam to be imbued with our meditation, so our meditations, the practice, can become smooth and effective without much obstacles, So making that strong, heartfelt request to all the lineage gurus, the lineage and the merit field. So these are the six preparations. So of course, those six preparation practice can be very, very extensive, short, and very short, but it is important to implement those six preparation practices all the time whenever we do any practice, as much as possible. And so definitely, as here it says, explained earlier, so that was explained in the very beginning, as a part of the small scope, as a preparation even before that. And as well as bodhicitta. And again, maybe it might, yeah. And then, to do, after the sixth preparation, then trying to develop the bodhicitta motivations. So our practice become, cause to the enlightenment. So our practice become virtues, not only virtues, but cause to the enlightenment. So we try to have a bodhicitta motivations, and also we try to train and meditate on the topics on the small scope and middle scope that is explained earlier, you know. So again, we can bring as a motivations, as a part of motivation, bodhicitta motivation, we can actually bring the whole Lam-Rim here. Whole Lam-Rim, you can implement the whole Lam-Rim within the practice of the motivations, you know. So you could spend, you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes on that strong motivation of the bodhicitta, which is preceded by the practice of the meditation or practice of small middle scope, which is preceded by the small scope. So we can actually bring all of that. And so if we can do that, then again, the practice become more powerful by the power of the right intention and motivations. So the Shamata, because Shamata itself, you know, is a common practice, Buddhist and non-Buddhist. And it is also a common practice among the the practice of bodhisattvas or non-bodhisattvas, the practice for those who are in an individual path. But in order to make this shamatha not just a ordinary shamatha, but to become this practice as a cause for enlightenment, fully enlightenment, then we bring that bodhicitta motivation factors. And so, and in order to have strong bodhicitta motivation, we need to have strong renunciations. You know, in order to have strong renunciation, then we need to have a strong practice of this middle scope. And in order to have that strong renunciation of the middle scope, then we need to have a strong practice of the small scope. So that is how each of those practices help as a foundation for the next level of the practice. The small scope practice help to have a middle scope practice of strong renunciations, and that strong renunciation practice of middle scope help us to have a strong bodhicitta mind. When that renunciation is directed towards other sentient beings, then it becomes bodhicitta mind. And so that is why, again, here Lama Tsongkhapa explained that. So then it comes to the actual practice itself. Okay, and then within that, then there is 2 points, you know, the body posture and the actual explanation, the actual stages of meditation itself or themselves. So then body posture, of course, I think probably most of you know, but as it says in Kamala Shila stages of meditations, you know, so you sit on a soft, comfortable seat, you know, and normally it is, of course, when you are trying to do a long meditation or Shamata or any other meditation retreat, if possible, it is good to have a, you know, kusha grass and long live grass under the cushions. And if we cannot find those grass, we can have a what you call yungtung, the swaska, what you call swaska, that's the symbol. Not the one used by the Nazi, you know, Nazi. That swastika. What?
The swastika.
Swastika. Okay. The one used by the Nazi is the clockwise. The one we use, no, the one they use anti-clockwise. The one we use is clockwise. Okay, so you can draw that under that also true. That is also, it just represent indestructible. it represents indestructible, very strong. So it is to kind of, so you can do that, but of course, if you don't have, then again, it is not a big deal, It's a not big deal. But traditionally, if you do that, that is how it is done, if possible. And then in terms of the cushions, at the back side, there is a little bit higher, some like in meditation, a lot of time you have the big one cushion, and on top of that, on the back, little smaller cushions. So that helps when you are staying for a long time. It is helpful to be able to not to get too kind of dull, and to also to help you to keep more straight. So that kind of cushion. But of course, if someone has difficulty with sitting on a sitting, they can use, I think on chair, it should be okay too, but of course, those who doesn't have difficulty, then we try to sit on cushions. And then the body posture has, 7 or 8 characteristics of posture, Virujana posture, the Buddha Virujana. So when the breath is added, it becomes 8. When you don't add the breath, then it becomes 7. So that is sometimes you see 7, sometimes you see 8, and depending on the breath is added in that or not. And so here it says 8, so that means with the breath. So then in terms of the legs, whether it's fully crossed or half crossed, most time when we sit a half cross, but if you can sit a fully cross, of course, that would be even better. But if you're not, then it's still half cross, left under and the right on top of the left. So that is the legs posture. The eyes are directed over the tip of nose, neither too open or too close. So again, it doesn't mean you have to really look on the tip of the nose, okay? Otherwise, if someone has a what do you call flat nose, they wouldn't see the nose. They would have difficulty. Even with a long nose, if you focus too much on the tip of your nose, sometimes you can have your eyes, pain in your eyes. So it is just giving an example, not too far away and not too just down, just somewhere where if you look from your nose, somewhere the direction, so that. And again, there is a reason, if it's too open, there will be too much distraction because we see too many things. Because our mind tend to follow our senses. So you see all different objects, then your mind started to follow after that. So it becomes distractions. If you close fully, then again, we might, because it becomes so dark, easy to fall sleepy and dullness. So that is why it is not completely closed, at the same time not completely open. So it helps our mind to be not too distracted and also not too dull. So that is, so the eyes slightly open, and then your body is straight, okay? Not bending or crooked. And so the body is very straight. Again, there is a link between our body and our mind. Because the mind rides on the wind energy. And when there is a better flow of the wind energy, our mind, there's more clarity because there is better flow of that mind. And so it helps us to have more clarity. Whereas if our body is not straight, crooked or bent, then there is distraction. There is a obstacle for the smooth flow of the wind energy. And when there is a obstacle for the smooth flow of the wind energy, then also there will have some obstacle for the mind, and so your mind. No, so that is why again, and also it helps when you are straight. It helps not to get too tired when you are sitting for a long time, and also not to fall asleep when you bend like this. When you sit like that, not straight like that, sit like that. After some time, it's easy to fall sleepy, and to have more that kind of sinking and dullness. But when you are more straight, then you are more kind of fresh and less dull. So that is why we try to keep this. The head is also not too high and not too low, without tilting to one side. You should keep yourself erect from nose down to the navel. So yeah, also the head is not too going too back or too bending, but very straight. And it is said like that. It's like if someone put some kind of like a rope from your nose straight, then when it touches the navel, something like that, very straight like that. Okay, the teeth and lips should remain natural, okay, just as they are. The tongue should be placed near the upper teeth, okay, and because, again, it helps. We might not notice for a short term, but if someone is doing a meditation for a long time, so then when you keep that tongue on that what you call upper place near the upper teeth, then it helps to not disturb by the salvia, Slavia, yeah. Because if you have a lot of Slavia, then it becomes, again, distractions, because you have to do something, because then either you need to speed it or you need to slow it, whatever you need to do. So it becomes, again, distractions. And so when you are doing long term, if you do that, then it helps to not to have that problem with Slavia. And so that is why. And then that is up to there. These are the 7, the leg, the eyes, the body, shoulder. The shoulder is also straight and even, and the head and the teeth and tongue. Those are the 7. 7, and then breath. So, and then you try to breathe, after you are, once you are in that posture, then you try to focus on the breath while you are breathing naturally, where he said your exhalation, inhalation should not be audible. So where it's so strong, like where you can hear like that. Sometimes when people do some yoga, they do very strongly, like that, not like that. And forcefully, it has to be more natural and not forcing yourself to have like up and down or like kind of competing with inhaling and exhaling, and uncontrolled. Sometimes where it is, sometimes it is inhaling too fast, sometimes it is inhaling too slow. That is like in kind of uncontrolled. Sometimes too fast, sometimes too slow, like that. But instead, try to keep it very normal, natural, without trying to that. Rather, the coming and going, the inhaling and exhaling, should be by all means process imperceptibly, leisurely, effortlessly, basically very naturally. Just let it. Yeah. So then that, and this is way to do it. So the reason why we do the breathing, the breathing is we try to do that all the time before any of the practice, any meditations, is so that we can, we want to start the practice with the right intention, bodhicitta intention, motivations. But sometimes to start with the right intention, motivation is not easy when your mind is not calm. Your mind is already disturbed by something that you have argument, or sometimes something you heard, something you saw that disturb your mind. So you try to meditate and that is disturbing you, and so your mind is unable to settle down. And when your mind is unable to settle down, then of course, even you try to generate a motivation, it doesn't become so well, there's struggle. So first we try to settle your mind, quiet your mind, calm your mind by watching the breath. And normally it's a 9 round of breathing. And sometimes you can do inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, like that, and then right, left, and both together, 9 rounds. Or sometimes you can just kind of inhaling, exhaling 1, inhaling, exhaling 2, inhaling, exhaling 3. You can count mentally 9, up to 9. Or you don't have to count it, and it doesn't have to be 9. Sometimes it might take more than 9 to quiet your mind. Sometimes you might be able to quiet your mind after just 2, 3. And if you are able to quiet your mind after 2, 3, that is fine. Then once your mind is quiet, calm, peaceful, from that quiet, peaceful state of mind, then you try to generate a good motivation of bodhicitta for the practice. So that is why we do the 9 round. Even though it said 9 round, but it is not like, the number is not what you call rigid, or it is just lot of time. By 9 time of breathing in and out, lot of time people's mind will be more quiet, calm. But for some time, in some cases, maybe we might be able to quiet, then maybe we might have to do more than 9. Maybe we might have to do 21 times, or even more than that, before we quiet our mind. In some cases, you just do 2, 3, and your mind is already quite calm, and then you can start the motivation and other practice. So that is the where the breathing comes. Then it comes to the explanation of the actual states of meditation themselves. Okay, and within that there is 2 points. So then one is transition. So basically what here is saying, according to many of the scriptures texts, of all the Indian masters, whether it's a Maitreya or Asangas, or and then Indian scholars such as Haribhadra, Kamala Shila, Shandiba, and then all the Lam-Rim teachings of the Tibetan masters and so on. Basically, most of them, they explain how to cultivate the Shamata, abiding, by using this particular method of overcoming the five faults by applying the 8 antidotes. And in some, overcoming the 5 faults by applying the 8 antidotes. Here, I think it is translated 8 factors, and on top of that, then the 9 stages of meditations. In some, it will come later, and then in some others, for example, in Kadamba Geshe Laksowa's lineage, and on top of that, then there's 6 powers, such as the power of hearing, reflecting, and so forth. And for attentions, sometimes for attention, or sometimes there is a different translation. For engagement, such as strong engagement, the effort, and so forth. And so there are, so mainly through those, mainly through the overcoming the 5 faults by applying the 8 antidotes. And then with the support of the 6 power and for engagement, and through the practice of 9 stages, in terms of stages, the 9 stages. So all of them will come later. And so then how to generate flawless concentrations, so that has, again, 3 points. 1, before focusing the mind to the object, and secondly, what to do while we are focusing on the mind to the object, and then what. So before is like, before we actually meditate. So then that is such as, overcoming the laziness, and what to do while we are focusing on the mind, so then that is trying to find the objects of the focus of the mind. And then what to do after focusing, once we have found the object of our meditations. And as we started to focus on that, then different obstacle arises. Sometimes excitement and distraction, and sometimes dullness, sinkings. So when that happens, what to do that? So in terms of that, so that those 3 kind of, three kind of those main points that Lama Tsongkhapa was going. And so in terms of what to do before focusing your mind to the objects. So then that, to that we need to do overcome the laziness. I think probably, definitely I need to overcome that. So when we are laziness, you have no interest or inspirations to practice, You don't have the energy or strong inspirations to do the practice. or joy in the practice. So instead, maybe we have inspiration and joy in doing something else, the samsaric things, and so to overcome that, then we have to overcome the laziness, because that is the what laziness make us not wanting to practice. Laziness make us not wanting to practice. Laziness make us kind of not inspired to practice. Laziness make us, not having the joy in engaging in the practice, and so that is why we need to overcome the laziness, because that prevent us from engaging concentrations here in practicing on meditation, concentration or shamatha. And even at the very beginning, we have some inspirations and joy in meditations. Then after some time, again, we become kind of lazy, and then again, we kind of give up, and then again, we cannot kind of continue and persistent, again, due to the laziness, and therefore our practice of meditation deteriorate again quickly, and so again, because of that laziness. So then we need to overcome that laziness. And so therefore, here Lama Tsongkhapa is, this reason is great important to put into the laziness at our outset. So overcoming laziness, therefore, very important. And even though there are 5 faults or obstacles to develop, shamatha, but laziness is one of the main obstacles. That is why when it comes to laziness, there are 4 antidotes. To other 4 faults, 1 antidote to each of them. So like with 8 antidotes in relation to the 5 faults, the first 4 antidotes are regarding towards the laziness, the first fault. And then the rest of the 4 antidotes act as one is to the one of those 4 faults. And so even with that, you probably we can understand why there is 4 antidotes to 1 laziness, 1 fault, because it is one of the bigger problems from the very beginning. One of the bigger problems from the very beginning, So then here Lama Tsongkhapa explaining what are the 4 antidotes. Maybe before we go, maybe I can just maybe kind of outline the 5 faults, and then maybe the 5 faults are laziness is the first one. The second is forgetting the instructions. It says forgetting the instructions, but I think it might be more like forgetting the objects of the meditations, or both of them. And third fault is the distractions and the laxity or sinking mind. And the fourth is not applying antidotes. When you are overcome by one of those obstacles, whether it's a distractions or laxity, you have to apply the antidote. But if you don't apply antidote, when your mind is overwhelmed by, your mind is interference by either the distraction or by the laxity, if you don't apply the antidote, that is one fault. And the 5th fault is over applying the antidotes. That means when your mind is balanced, stable, and when your mind is not under the influence of either the distraction or the laxity, then you have to keep your mind there instead of at that time, if you try to apply, then you disturb your stability, your balance. Again, it becomes a problem to develop the Shamata. And in that cases, you don't apply the antidote. You try to keep that without over applying the antidotes when your mind is not under influence of any of that. So those are the 5 faults. And then in terms of the antidotes, the 8 antidotes, because here I think it doesn't come one by one. It's same, because so then it comes in different stages. So then the 8 antidotes of faith, aspirations, joyous effort, and plenty. These are the 4 first antidotes, all of them as the antidote towards the laziness. And then the 5th one is, mindfulness. 6th one is, I think, introspections. And 7th one is applying the antidotes. The 8th one is keeping in equanimity, or not applying antidote, but keeping in equanimity. So these are the 8 antidotes, the 5 faults. And to overcome those 5 faults, applying those 8 antidotes. And so I think that's kind of briefly, because, yeah. And so then here it's Lama Tsongkhapa, here it says 191 at the B, individual explanation of 4 antidotes, the first 4 one. So if we are able to achieve the plenty, which means flexibility, flexibility in your mind, unlike now our mind is so unflexible, so but when we achieve through training your mind kind of plenty, kind of flexibility, then your body and mind will expand with the bliss, with that kind of flexibility, then it makes our body and mind much more light. And also there is some wind energies. And through that kind of wind energy that prevails in our body, that lead to a great bliss on bodily level as well as on a mental level. And so when there is so much blissfulness in that, then of course you will not become so easily tired or weary. Even when you practice, meditate day and night, when you are trying to apply day and night practice towards virtues. And again, even though maybe we might not have that kind of experience in terms of the virtues, but when it comes to non-virtues, we know, at least I've experienced, when you have so much joy in doing something, when I was young, we go day and night, during the vacations, lots of vacations, we play day and night, 24 hours, hardly much sleep, and still you have energy. You don't feel so tired. But if I have to do it for practice, it will be not possible, because there is no same level of the joy in that. And that is where, when the cleanses, when we are able to develop that flexibility cleansing, then there is so much joy on mental level, on physical level, and that will really, you wouldn't feel so tired easily, and awareness. And so then that become the actual direct antidote towards the laziness. When you have so much enjoyment and blissfulness, then you wouldn't be lazy, isn't it? We don't get lazy, something you enjoy so much. When we don't enjoy it, then it is very difficult. We have to push ourselves, so difficult, And so that is why, and so there, when you're that cleansed, then laziness can be stopped. Laziness is able to stop, And in order to develop that kind of cleansing and that kind of flexibility on your mind, then we need to put joyous effort to develop and to maintain that joyous effort. To have that cleansing, you need to have joyous effort. In order to joyous effort, then you need to have the strong inspirations, intense and strong inspirations. If you have the strong inspirations, then definitely that will give you to, that will naturally make us to have perseverance and effort towards our practice. A lot of time, the problem is we lost because there's lack of inspirations, strong, intense inspirations. And in order to have that strong, intense inspiration, then we need to have a strong faith. The faith here means, joyfulness and the wish, to develop that meditative concentration of the shamatha. Faith is kind of, I don't know in English, exactly English meaning of faith. In Tibetan, same word, theba, has different meanings, and so here is faith, because sometimes when you see, I don't in English word, whether you give the right meaning here when you say faith to concentrations or shamatha. I don't know, but in Tibetan it has different meaning, like convictions. That is one of the things, convictions. In some case, like trust or total convictions is this theba, same. And in others, that you have a strong liking towards something, and joy and joyfulness and liking that. Also, we use same kind of same word, and sometimes for the wish, wish for that. And so anyway, in Tibetan, it is the same word that can be used for different. So here, what it means is, as we reflect, contemplate more and more on the excellent qualities, the benefit of the shamatha, the more and more we reflect, the more understanding you have that, the more we want to develop that, the more strong wish for one. You want to have a strong, we develop more stronger wish or wants to develop that quality within ourselves. That is the faith meaning here. And when you have that strong wish or that strong wanting to cultivate and develop that that shamatha, then of course, then that will give you aspirations. And when you have aspirations, then you will put more effort. And if you put more effort, then that will give you to a plenty. And then when you have plenty, then you don't get tired, and you overcome the laziness. And so that is how those 4 practices act as a cause for the foundation or cause for the next level of the practice, and then how that act as an antidote towards the laziness. And so I think maybe, I guess today we have to kind of stop here. I don't know whether there's any questions, chat. No, okay. So I think, yeah, maybe today, maybe it seems like we are going kind of a little bit slow, but I guess it is always kind of little challenging. Sometimes you want to go fast because it never finish, but then again, if you go too fast again, yeah. Anyway, thank you. So we'll do the dedications. Let me see whether there is another. Okay. And I think last week there was asked about some of the text on how to develop Shamata, and I mentioned a couple of them, but I said I didn't have so much access to what are available in the English translation, and Bob has come with so much list. He is like the library, you know. He has so many he wrote me. So I think Mary has. So I think Mary will be able to kind of. I guess maybe is it that on? Did you put somewhere, Mary? Those lists.
Yes, I did. And thank you so much, Bob, as well. It's in the materials folder for this class.
Okay. So those who are interested.
And, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Gewadi nyordo da lama sangye do ne do wa chi kya ma le ba te ye sa la kwe ba sho chang jo sem jo ren bo che ma ke pa na ke kyo che ke wa nyam ba me ba yang. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Tu tu chang xin chang gun jia yue ten ten chang pe we kun su to ho zi cho song ku ye le mo tu tu pa na so du je gun du xiao ten shou. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.